Cat or dog? Is it... Welcome to the Nehemiah Business Lifecycle Podcast. My name is Patrice Tsague. I'm your host. Today we have not a stranger to our podcast. They've been here a few times. This is Valentine's almost day, right? The love month. And we thought who best than having Robert and Kay Lee Fukui back with us, particularly because they've agreed to speak for us this year. We're doing an annual global forum on couples in business. This year, we are doing it around transition. Whether you are as a couple, you're doing career transition, you're doing business transition, or you're exiting your business. We're going to deal with that, the dynamics. How do you ensure that transition as a point of unifying versus bringing you guys apart, right? And so Robert and Kay Lee has done some transitions, particularly I remember the major one that they did, which is Robert living a very successful corporate career to join his wife in business as a startup, and that whole transition. And they're still together. They've not gone hungry, and he's not going back to corporate, and he's helping several couples around the country and around the world. So, Robert, Kay Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you for having Patrice.
Well, I remember your transition, but before we get to it, let's talk about where you guys are now. So bring us up to speed. So you've authored a book called Tandem, which, by the way, our Couples in Business Life group are going through it right now. What's his name? He's the president of the Orlando Chamber.
Kristen?
Yeah, him and his wife, right? I call them heavens. They've gone through it already, so they're double dipping. They're going at it again with us, and so that's how much that book is powerful. So after that book, and that book has the name is so special, and it lives up to its name. All right, I didn't know. So Gina and I, we are going through it ahead of the couples, and so we kind of ahead of them. And you guys done a great job of really capturing. Sometimes you see titles, and you get into the substance of it. It doesn't live up to promise. No, you guys not only delivered, but over-delivered on this one. So great job there. You guys also run a coaching practice where you specialize with families, couples in business. And so talking about where you guys are now, what's happening, the impact you guys have made so far before we kind of take us back.
Well, one is we're going through another transition. So speaking of transitions, we're going to another one, moving from the west coast of Pasadena, sunny Southern California, and we're going to go to the east coast and kind of the Charlotte area, North Carolina. So that's going to be a major transition because.
What led to this transition? But I have a hard time in my head seeing you in the East Coast. But what led to this?
Well, it was one of those things where we just fell in love with this area. So back in 2021, I had a client who was a NASCAR driver, of all things. And so we were back for the race in Charlotte back in October of 2021. His parents rented an Airbnb on Lake Norman, just about a half hour north of Charlotte. We stayed with them. And we just really fell in love with the area. The lake was just beautiful. It was a big, beautiful lake, in a wooded area. We're out there kayaking one afternoon, and I remember just saying, I can see myself here. It's just different. The East Coast, Southern California is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but there's just differences in the country. There's so many beautiful areas of the country, and they're just different. And when you grow up in an area all your life and you raise all your life, you kind of, I don't say get jaded, but you're just used to it, right? So I think the greenery of North Carolina and the ways the lake and the wooded areas were just different from here than you can find here. And also, I went on Zillow to look at the price of homes. So
I know where that's going.
That was just like what are we doing this? So the question became, I'm asking Kay Lee, is like, what keeps us in Southern California or California in general? Because we're right off of the tail end of COVID, or the heat of COVID, right, in 2020. And our practice was always virtual anyway. When everybody was pivoting to virtual, our practice was already virtual anyway. So our business really didn't miss a beat during COVID. And that's when we started to question, like, okay, can we live almost anywhere, right? As long as we have Wi-Fi. And so when we got into Lake Norman, it really started to, we really started to ask the question, does anything really keep us here? And are we open to moving? So that's kind of how it started.
And my dream's always been to live on the water. And in California, that's pretty tough to do.
You got I thought we got beach. Well, okay, the expense of living on the beach. That's correct. The price. Got it.
And so, and the Lord, we prayed about it, and we felt like the Lord said yes. Well, He didn't give us exactly the green light, but we felt like He wasn't saying no. And we didn't want to be the couple that said, oh, we had thought about that or wondered about that, but we never did anything about it. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, we'll step out, and then you can guide and direct us. I mean, He could still tell us no. We're going through our house, we're cleaning it out, we're getting rid of stuff, which feels good. And we want to be obedient to what He has for us.
So He didn't have to convince you. Your husband didn't. It was.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. That's
you know what? like I said, that was my dream. And so when He said, oh, I could do this, I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, Lord, that's you.
Because he actually was born in Hawaii, I believe, right, Robert? Yeah. So you were transplant in California. You are born and raised in California.
Yeah, I'm a California girl, correct?
Yeah. So, wow. You were going to say something, Robert?
No, I was just saying, we'd kind of talked about it before, just in general, when you're visioning your life, which every couple should do, is like, long-term, where do you want to live? Like, where would you be ideal place? And we did both talk about the water, but we also, it's like having a house on the beach, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, there's a lot of damage that can get. There's the practical side of living it. Like, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of expense and repairs and maintenance for a beachfront property. Plus, here in Southern California, it's super expensive to have a nice beachfront property. We could go to a lake, but there wasn't really a lot of lakes around California that I really liked to live on, except for Lake Tahoe. But that was just too far. It felt too remote and all that. So anyways, all that to say is when we got to Lake Norman, I was like, this is really amazing. It's beautiful. It feels out of the way, but you're only a half hour outside of Charlotte, which has an international airport. It's an American Airlines hub. So when I was looking at air flights, I mean, you can get direct flights to almost anywhere in the country. Let alone is, I know for people that are going to Europe, they're flying out in Europe. I was just talking to a friend of mine that lives up in Manhattan. And he says when he goes to Europe, he's connecting through Charlotte, or when he was in New Jersey, he would connect through Charlotte to get to Europe. So anyways, all to say is, from a practical standpoint, from a living standpoint, it has the best of both worlds. You feel like you're removed, but you're close enough to a good city and to a major airport that we can, because we like to travel both for work and for pleasure, just checked off a lot of boxes, and we just kind of happened into it just because of a client. And so we just started exploring it. And so what happened was every year we just visited for one reason or another. We visited, we've spoken at a couple churches there. We had a book tour. We just purposely stayed there for a few days. I rented an Airbnb on the lake one time and surprised Kay Lee. Mm-hmm. And then last year in March, we just decided to spend the month of March there. And so we rented an Airbnb on the lake and just tested it out for a month. And we just kind of really just said, yeah, let's try it. So the move now, the next step is to live there for a year. We're going to rent a lakefront property for a year and see if, okay, is this it or not?
Oh, I love it. So let's kind of get into that a little bit, because what you're kind of giving us some good gem here about what it looks like as a couple to make a major decision or transition. This case is, I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. You're kind of going the opposite way. So what are some insight you can give couples as they're trying to make this kind of major transition decision? You share some things, that I just want to kind of pick that up. What are some key gems that you can share that you've been doing together? Even the idea, Robert, of you saying, hey, well, let's go there for a year, right? Even that's a strategic move. And so why only a year? So take us from there, and then back to when you thought about it to when you made a decision as to what are some gems you can.
I would say first sit down with your spouse and your family and dream. What are some of the things that you've always wanted to do and you haven't done them? And write that stuff down. You can do it individually, come together and talk about it, because you'd be surprised the stuff that you might come up with the other person didn't think of, or maybe they had that dream somewhere way back in the back of their mind. And then when you say it, they're like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Because so many times I think it's easy, it's comfortable to see where we're at and do things that we know, as opposed to maybe we need to get out of our comfort zone once in a while and see what the Lord has for us.
Yeah, so that's, like I said earlier, it started with, because we had talked about the future a little bit, and what we would like we'd love to live on the water, but here is probably not practical or whatever, for whatever reason. So when the opportunity came when we were Lake Norman, it just kind of went aha for both of us, because we'd already talked about this at some level. It was just more of a dream. But then all of a sudden, your reality starts to match up with the dream. You're like, wait a second, is this it? And so now the transition is still a big move, right? So we're treating this transition just like we would, like in business, like a product launch or major pivot. You don't go just all in all of a sudden, right? You make small investments. You create kind of what's a minimum viable product to test, to get feedback, and then make changes, adapt, and move forward. Or do we do something different? So in our case, testing was, we went out there once a year. We were there for a couple of days of the year. And then last year, right, the next step was, let's spend a little bit longer. We spent a month there. And then now this one is going to be, okay, a year. If this is definitely a yes after a year, we're both feeling like this is it, then let's go all in, right? So what happens is, in a lot of times when we're making transitions, whether it's in life or in business, how couples get into conflict is because it feels like we're all in or not. And then the couple or the spouse that's less of a risk taker, right? They're going to be very, very apprehensive, and it creates conflict and tension. So for us, we said, we're open. Number one is, let's be open to the idea. And then what's a way to test the idea without going all in, right? So this year that we're spending is like an extended, it's almost like a soft launch, right? In a business. Good. So we're not committed, but it's a relatively less expensive way to test and then get feedback and move forward. So what we're going to do is, because we've seen friends where they've moved to a different part of the country only to find out they didn't like it, but they've already sold their home here in California. So once you sell it in California, it's really hard to come back. So we're not doing that. So we're going to rent our place out while we rent for a year in Lake Norman. And so actually, because of that, we're actually going to make more money because we can rent our place out for 2 times what we're going to be paying for rent on a lakefront property in Lake Norman.
That is so good.
Worst case scenario, Kaylee's like, well, what if we don't like it? I said, worst case scenario is we spend a year on the lake.
Oh, darn.
We make extra money, and then we just move back. And we made some more friends. And we made some more friends and we moved back. Right? What's the worst?
That is so good. I'm talking to Robert and Kay Lee Fukui, the authors of Tandem, a book that really helps couples in business to know how to be in tandem with each other, like the tandem bike, how to be in sync with each other as they do projects, as they run businesses. They will be our guests this upcoming Saturday on February 14th on Valentine's Day for the Couples in Business Global Forum, as we deal with how to help couples navigate transition, life transition, business transition, whatever that might be. First of all, Robert and Kay Lee, thank you. You guys have been great champions. Well, before I get to that, actually, you've been great champion of Nehemiah, both financial supporters as well as Town Council and Treasurer. Robert used to be a board chair, vice chair for us, taught and coached with us. And Kay Lee, you always was there for us as needed. Thank you so much for that. Before I go to my next question, how did your pastor, because I know you guys are so instrumental to Cheon at your church. So how did he take it?
That's a funny story. I mean, they've known they've heard our conversations through the year, a couple of years, whatever.
And they've been praying for us as well too.
And but not two Decembers ago, we had lunch with them just to kind of give them an update on where we were. And this is before we spent the year or the month of March there. So this is December before we spent the month on the lake. But we just wanted to get some counsel, spiritual counsel, right? They've been our pastors for 19 years. And so we just gave them an update. And so Pastor Che says to us at the end of our lunch, he says, this isn't a thus saith the Lord, but he says, let me give you 5 reasons why you should stay. So he just gave us and then a month later, we're sitting down. We had an elders meeting, an elders lunch. I happened to be sitting next to him. And he asked me, so, how's it going as far as the move? And I said, we're going to spend the month of March out there to kind of see, if this is it. And so he looked at me and he says, you should think about starting a Harvest Rock Church Charlotte, because we don't have them out there. And I look at him like, a month ago you gave me 5 reasons why to stay. Now the seat isn't even cold yet. You want me to plant a church? And I'm like, now
he's a pastor, he's a salesman. Yeah. What do you want?
I said that I will have to have a burning bush moment. I kid you not. I said the Lord is going to have to speak very clearly and loudly, because it's for me, and being a pastor's kid, right? To me, starting a business is a lot easier than starting a church. Not physically, but I think emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I said, my dad always said, sheep bite. It's easier to deal with customers than deal with the congregation. I think there's higher expectations that the congregation has than customers do for business owners. And so I said, God's definitely going to have to say something for that one. So anyways, that's all.
I love it. Elizabeth,
so basically, all I have to say is we never got anywhere. Like, we're looking for spiritual counsel. I said, you gave me nothing.
Either stay or start a church. Which one do you want?
Exactly.
Those are the 2 options. Exactly. Elizabeth, my sister Elizabeth, thank you for watching. She says, love the practical advice to dream together for life's next chapter or move. And then she also can't wait for the Global Forum. Her husband and I are signing up. Thank you, Elizabeth. Look forward to seeing her. As I'm thinking, Elizabeth, my executive assistant, I'm thinking about when her husband's going to graduate one day, and she's going to have to think about a transition. I'm going to be like, Che, I'm going to say, either start at Nehemiah wherever he's taking you, or don't go anywhere. So with that, what advice would you share? Because that's a major one. The reason I ask about that, because you're highly involved in your local church. You started the marketplace ministry there. I know how much Pastor Chan relies upon you. He's a good pastor. It's a good church. Yeah. That comes in the calculus. So talk about that as different marketplace leaders are watching and listening, as part of transition, particularly in this case, physical transition. Any advice you want to give them about how they counsel with their pastor and how they think through the implications of their local church, particularly when they're really involved?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think probably 7-8 years ago, it would have probably felt like a harder conversation for me because I'm so loyal. Right, honey?
Oh, yes.
like being 10 years on a 5-year term for being on the Nehemiah board, right? I said, wait a second, I thought there was a term limit to this. But I think, over the years and maturity and experience and all that, and being so heavily involved with the church, one of the things we got very clear on probably about 7-8 years ago was we really have to understand our call versus just being true, just being blindly loyal. So, I remember even some years back, I picked up, speaking to Pastor Che, I picked up Pastor Che from the airport and bring him home. And he looked at me and said, hey, maybe we should run you through the pastoral track so you can become an ordained pastor. And I looked at him. I know he was being gracious and nice. And I was like, well, let me pray about it. I already knew in the back of my head the answer was no. But anyways, I told him, I said, when I came back to him later, I said, I really feel it's a blessing to be considered an ass. But I said, I really feel our call is in the marketplace. And it's not that we couldn't serve in the marketplace still as being an ordained pastor, but I just felt that we just need to be true to our lane. I didn't want to have one foot in the church and one foot in the marketplace. And I've seen people do that, and they never have even footing. They feel, is the church, is the marketplace, and I just felt maybe some people can do it well, but I felt for us, if we really wanted to serve well in the marketplace, we really got to stay committed in the marketplace. And so even all the things that we volunteer for or part of, in the church, it was always business focused. Like when we started the biblical entrepreneurship class at Harvest International Ministries, right? Staying in our lane. And when we're staying in our lane, even while serving a church, we really don't feel like we enjoy it. We love it. And we're going to do great at it. Right. And we can, even though we can serve in other areas, but we're not as gifted in those areas, but we can do it. But I don't think over time you feel a little bit burnt out. And I said, so many times I see that in volunteers in the church, that they're doing it out of being gracious and being kingdom hearted. But if it's not in your lane, eventually you're going to burn out. And so this conversation with Kay, fast forward to now, is, we really didn't feel, we felt that we had to understand where God wanted us to go. And don't feel guilty about saying, hey, we're leaving because of this. Now we still want his blessings, and we know Kay well enough that regardless of what his opinion is, he's always going to give you his blessings. And that's one of the reasons why we really love Pastor Tsague so much, because he's not controlling for people to feel called to be released somewhere else. He's not one of those pastors that want to try and keep you. Keeping you. He really is really sensitive to understand, be releasing you based on your call. And so that's why the conversation we felt wasn't going to be difficult, because we knew where his heart was to say, if he knew that if we felt God was calling us somewhere else, he wasn't going to stand in the way.
Oh, that's so good. Kay, you want to add anything to that?
Our pastor's been praying for us, because, this has been a process for us. And so when we first started talking to him about it, he's like, okay, I'll pray for you guys about that. And he still is praying with us and for us about the move and all that, and for God's will.
Oh, that's so good. Again, talking with Robert and Kay Lee Fukui, the authors of Tandem, a book that really helps couples to navigate what it means to do business together in tandem, as the book says. The imagery of the book has the two couples, actually has the tandem bike, which is genius. Of course, he's a marketer. So that's a great line. We are going through that book right now ourselves as couples in business. It's a great book for small group, for life groups, any group that are dealing with doing life together, whether you're in business or not. Great book. He'll be speaking, him and his wife both, they'll be speaking for us this upcoming Saturday on the 14th of February for our couples in business.
Yeah, getting us up at the crack of dawn on a Valentine's Day. On a Saturday, it's Valentine's Day on a Saturday, getting us up at 6 a.m.
you get the love day going early, so you get the first at it. So if you're not yet signed up, going to do it right now. Go to NehemiahEcommunity.com and just sign up. Go to events, sign up. Miriam says blessing to all. Miriam, blessing to you as well. Of course, you're going to talk more about this during the forum, but you Robert, you went through a major business transition, right? You were very successful in your corporate career, and you made a decision to be an entrepreneur. Without giving it all away, but give us a little sense of that dynamic and what any lessons that they can have today, but save the rest for this weekend. And Kay Lee, how do you want to add to that? Because I'm sure for you, it also wasn't easy, because he was making good money. And so could you guys what can you guys tell us that why should we come on Saturday?
The Lord you got to come and hear the story. Yes. The Lord really worked on Robert, because Robert had no desire to have his own business and be an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
I saw that in him, but he's like, absolutely no.
Was that the pastor thing? So there's hope then for Pastor Tsague? You know what you're saying?
Well, it was just that, I wasn't growing up with that mindset. So that was never a consideration. And I was also not a very big risk taker. So, it just sounded like a big risk. And so I think, one of the things that you're going to learn on Saturday is you got to know who you listen to. Because I had a mentor, business coach, if you can call him that, who, when I was about to make that transition from corporate to doing the consulting business full time, he questioned me. He said, "Are you sure you want to leave the confines, and you got all the benefits and the
healthcare,
big healthcare, the just commissions
retirement,
and all that, the big income and all that stuff. Are you sure you want to leave? Because how can that's a lot. And so that person was Patrice Tsague.
Of course it is.
In the middle,
that was a good one. That was a good
not
one.
just once, but I don't know how many times he was like,
You
"Are you sure you want to leave?" And then even when he introduced me, like was speaking at one of the Nehemiah events, man, I don't know if you should leave. And I was like, "Patrice, aren't you the guy that's supposed to encourage me to go into entrepreneurship?" And here he is, like, "Are you trying to convince me, or are you just testing me?" I'm not sure what it is. So I had to throw that one in, Patrice, because
I love it. That is good. That is true. I was ready for another name. I was like, who? I was like, who was that jerk?
Obviously, testing my resolve, right, to do it. Yeah, I'll just say Patrice was testing me. Want to see how strong my commitment was, of course. Right?
But look at that. I was wrong, right? You made the move. Entrepreneurship is a low barrier of entry, right? But as we all know, the failure is very high. And I tell you, I've never been proud. That's why I love having you guys back at Nehemiah, because you guys really exemplify not only, and I look forward to hearing the story, because you planned well. That's the start there, right? And then you executed well. It wasn't easy. It didn't come with everything didn't work out, but because you had great margin, how you planned it, you found your footing. And I look forward to hearing that insight. What was it about your husband, Kay Lee, that you felt, honey, you got it? I mean, because for a woman, all women, it's about security. For a woman who, to push her husband, or at least encourage in that vein, also meant that it could not work. What was it about him, about entrepreneurs, you felt that he should consider it?
Well, when I first met him, I saw entrepreneur all over him when we were dating. And I said something to him, because I'm third generation entrepreneur. And he said, absolutely no way. It's I'm all over his tolerance, he said. So I said, okay. And I just left it at that. And then I don't know if I should tell the rest of it. Maybe we should wait till Saturday.
Let's wait. That's what the Saturday. But let me ask this, though. Guys, as I watch you guys in your element, from the book to as you guys speak around, Rob and I both serve on the board of the U.S. Chamber. You have never looked so content. Is it as good as it looks?
I feel that way. I mean, it's one of those things that every once in a while people would ask, like, when are you going to retire, or are you going to retire, whatever. And I'm like, I mean, I enjoy what we do, and it's not physically taxing. So as long as my mental capacity is there, I can do it for the rest until I die. I mean, it's something we enjoy, and because it's not, it's really about how we affect people, right? You're really dealing with the owners one-on-one, and especially now as we're dealing with couples. I mean, you're seeing how not only what we do and the coaching and consulting help that we give, not only does it help the business, but it helps the individual, it helps the marriage, helps the family, helps the team. I mean, it impacts so many people. And so just enjoy that process and that change. And so, there's no reason to retire, because I'm figuring even if I wasn't getting paid, I'd be doing something. I mean, I mentor even some of the young guys at our church. I meet once a month for coffee. That's like kind of my mentoring time with some of the young entrepreneurs. And so some form of fashion, I'm still going to be doing what I'm doing, or we are. And so, yeah, I mean, no regrets.
Yeah, I told him he's not going to be retiring. I said he can work like hours, but not retiring, because he loves to be learning and helping people and growing. I mean, he loves to golf, but I mean, come on, if you golf like 7 days a week, it's not going to be special anymore. Like if you do that for every day, it's like eating lobster every day, and then you're like, oh, I'm kind of tired of it. I'm kind of over it. But and when you want it, I think the Lord wants us to be doing His kingdom work and helping people and being a good steward and keeping your mind growing. That's very important. So many times I've seen people retire. They're like, okay, I'm going to do all this stuff. They have a whole checklist of stuff they're going to do when they retire, and they retire. and then they don't make it but 6 months. You know what I mean? It's so sad. A good friend of ours, they wanted to travel the world. And so they said, as soon as the last person retired, we're going to go do that. Well, the husband, he retired first and then she retired. But by the time they both were retired together, they had all kinds of health issues.
Wow.
And there was no way that was going to happen. And so it's sad.
What's also neat, Kay Lee, is you truly champion your husband. I mean, that right there is fun to watch, right? No man feels more secure when they have a wife who truly champions them. What's been the secret for you, Kay Lee? Because there are many wives who they want to champion their husband, but for what reason they have a hard time. What's your what would you say to them?
Oh, thanks, Patrice. A couple of things come to mind. The first thing was I can be very strong-headed. My family's kids are all strong-willed. And I always said to the Lord, I want a leader when I get married. I want someone that leads.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got married, and the Lord told me, you said you want a leader. Don't be running all over your husband. Allow him to lead. No, I'm serious.
Amen.
And I'm like,
That's so
Lord,
good.
no, I want to do that. And he's like, no, you prayed for a leader. Now let him lead. And it was kind of challenging at first, but I thought, you know what? I need to, because when you've been single for a while, you're used to doing things on your own. So I
That's
had to
right.
relinquish that to him. And
Mm.
because I thought, you know what? I married him for all these great qualities. And so now it's time for me to step back and allow him to lead. And the second thing that comes to mind is I've heard so many men say this. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. But my wife wouldn't let me. And I
Mhm.
always said, I don't want to be that wife. I want to be where I support my husband and whatever he wants to do, because I don't want to have him have regrets or myself feel like I'm holding him back.
That is so good. Wow. Before you guys leave, a couple of things. Miriam, thank you for watching. Miriam said you guys are living in your God-given sweet spot. Remember that? That is so awesome. You're modeling identity and destiny. But I want one more question before now we'll do some promotion and let you guys go. So you guys have a podcast. Talk to us a bit about that and the purpose and how people can have access to it and because I'm sure the podcast is an extension of your book. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's called Thriving in Tandem.
So of course,
our book is Tandem, and the Married Entrepreneur's Guide to Greater Work-Life Balance. And so we just named or renamed our podcast Thriving in Tandem. It was called something different before, but I thought for branding purposes, let's make everything consistent. So Thriving in Tandem, it's what it sounds like, just like the book. It's really about helping married entrepreneurs win at home, win in business. How do you have greater work-life balance? How do you succeed both in your business and your home? And too many times when we're in business, that so much time and focus is on that the relationship suffers. It takes a back seat, just like what happened in my family growing up, even though my dad wasn't a business owner, but he was a pastor. But he was so focused on the ministry that he was basically, everything was for the ministry for the sake of the family, basically, and essentially forsaking the family. And so, and then Kaylee's dad was a business owner, which same thing, similar circumstance, where we're so focused on building an organization that inevitably the family takes a back seat. And we definitely don't want that to happen to us, nor to our clients. And so that's why we started focusing on this, how do we help married business owners navigate this tension between building a successful business and having a thriving marriage? And too many times in our society, I think we feel that we have to make a decision, one or the other. Either you sacrifice the family to build a successful business, or you focus on the family and your business is going to suffer. I think that's the decision process most people think they have to make. And as opposed to, no, both can win, because with God, all things are possible. And so how can we do that? That's the secret sauce. How do we get both to win? Because that's been a struggle for a lot of business owners. We saw it in our early days of consulting, and we saw it growing up. And we decided when we started our business, we weren't going to let that happen to our marriage. And we still want to be successful on the business side and the economic side, but we definitely are not going to sacrifice our marriage. And so we just figured out a way. It was one evening at 2 a.m. at this desk when I was working late, and I was like, Lord, I don't believe this is your best.
So good.
And so, but too many times people don't question that. Like they think this is what we have to be. This is the way we build our business. This is the way we have to live our life, is just all this busyness and stress. And I just said to the Lord, this isn't your best. I don't see any scripture that our family has to suffer for the sake of income. That's not, because biblically speaking, it's your priorities are your faith, your family, and then your finance. But too many times we're living where our finance is overtaking faith and family, that we're putting the priority of our best mental capacity, our best physical capacity, and emotional capacity is built on the organization than it is what truly matters. And I believe we believe when you're in proper alignment, and your faith and your family are priorities, and you practice that, and you see it, and you see the fruit of it, that the business side takes care of itself. God blesses the business when you give God your best, and of course your family next.
That is so good. Wow, guys, don't you leave, because there's some. I'm going to ask Kaylee and Robert to give another word of advice. Listen, if you want to know more about them, you can go to marriedentrepreneur.co, marriedentrepreneur.co. You can learn about the book, get resources, sign up for the podcast. They have a blog. They have good resource, or at thetandembook.com. You can go there as well. Of course, we want to invite you this upcoming Saturday to the Couples and Business Global Forum. They'll be sharing their journey of transition, how Robert left a major successful corporate life to go into business, which he told his wife he never would do it. And so they are today. They have not missed a meal. And they're impacting hundreds of people around the nation and around the world, particularly through their ministry and business. So I want to have you to join us. If you're not yet signed up, go to the NehemiahEcommunity.com /events. You can find Global Forum there and sign up and join us. Also, if you want to know more about Nehemiah, if you want to join our community, we encourage you to go to our website, NehemiahEcommunity.com. There you can learn about how to become a member of the community, right? We have over 5,000 members from around the world. You can join us and be a part from Asia, from Africa, Latin America. You can also learn about our coaching program, one-on-one group coaching. You can learn about our access to capital. And of course, you can become a part of the community and join us this upcoming week at the Global Forum. You can also, if you enjoy this podcast, I want you to do me one favor. I want you to share it with your friends, share with family, friends share with friends, that which they love, inspire them, and enjoy. Share. Couples who are struggling, who are maybe desiring, the wife has not been supporting the husband, or whatever the case might be. Share this podcast with them and be a blessing to them. Listen, subscribe to our Facebook, to our YouTube, to our LinkedIn. We'd love to stay in touch and community with you. Before we close, Robert and Kaylee, so there are couples who are watching right now, and they may be saying, you know what, we don't have what you guys have, right? They might be saying, well, it's economics. If we made the kind of money you guys made, probably do the same thing, right? They might be saying that's the reason. Second, might be saying, you know what, it's him or it's her, right? If they did this or that, what advice would you give them? They're watching and they may be on the edge. And they can't last till Saturday. What advice would you give them? Let's start with you, Kaylee. Would you give them, I say, hey, do this? Of course, get the book, go to the website, but what advice would you give them as they consider going from the edge to be able to repair their marriage or in their relationship?
I would say being able to resolve conflict, and that starts with looking at ourselves. Because a lot of times when I'm upset with Robert, I get triggered. Majority of the time, it has absolutely nothing to do with him.
That's so good.
Something got triggered inside of me, probably a childhood wound, and so then sometimes I'm not typically happy about this all the time, but I need to go spend time with the Lord and find out, Lord, why am I triggered? Why am I so upset about this? What's going on? And spend time with him and allow him to bring me peace and heal that place in my heart. And just help me be calm about it. Because if we can't resolve things, it's so hard to move forward in your relationship, to be stronger, and in business. So I say spending more time, more quiet time with the Lord when you're upset about things. And I ask him, Lord, what is it in me that got triggered? What was my part in this? Because a lot of times it's so much easier to blame the other person.
That is so good. You know, before we took up your book, we read a book as a couples and business group called How We Love. And it really deals with going back as to the wounds and all that. That is so good. Robert, what advice would you give him?
Kind of on the similar lines is take it to prayer. I mean, daily, you and your spouse pray daily together. There is a research from the Family Council that showed that the divorce rate for couples that pray daily together, now this isn't just at the mealtime, this is like intentional prayer, is a fraction of 1%. It's 1 in over 1,100. When you actively pray daily together, because that's, I mean, think about this. You're bringing God into the center of the marriage, and you're actually speaking blessings over each other. So even psychological research will show you too that when you're praising your spouse or when you're praising the other person, you cannot also be negative at the same time. And so too many times in life, in their busyness of life, we're just going through the motions. We're just running. But how many times have we taken the moment to be intentional, to look each other in the eye and just pray blessing over them? When's the last time you even said something nice? Right? But we do this daily, every morning, first thing in the morning, and we take it to prayer, and it just brings us closer together. So not only there's research on it, and biblically speaking, it says to do that, but even psychological research shows that it's true. And also that, I forget where I was going with this, but anyways, the prayer thing, that's what I was saying is, so, you hear this news about the divorce rate in the church is the same as in secular, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's somewhat fake news. It's partially true, but it's not fully true. So when you're talking about the divorce rate being similar inside and outside the church, it's more of the survey. These are like surveys that said, do you consider yourself a Christian? It's just kind of, I call it check the box Christian. It was something you put on the demographic form. But when you start digging into the data, you'll start seeing that the more involved, or the more the Christian are actually walking the walk, the divorce rate gets lower, and especially all the way to when you're praying daily together. So the answer, the church actually has the answers for divorce or to marriage. It's just, number one, you bring God center into the marriage, but you actively do it, and that's through prayer. And the sad thing about it is only 8% of Christian couples pray daily together. And that's including pastor couples. So I don't recall seeing my parents ever just pray like that together. We only prayed at the dinner table. I've never seen them pray just on a regular basis like the way we do. So yeah, we have the answer, we just don't do it. So I'd say, regardless of where your marriage is at the moment, or you're just trying to consider a tough decision, a transition like we've been talking about, is number one, bring it to prayer first thing in the morning, come to prayer, and then ask the Lord for a solution that could be different than one or you. So we always look at what's the best decision for us, as opposed to Kay and I want to stick to our guns of what we think is right, which causes conflict, right? We're causing conflict because I think it's right, she thinks it's right. Sometimes we have to be open to the possibility that the other person might be right, or there's a third solution. And a lot of times that third solution is even better than the ones that either one of us came up with, which even just this whole transition we're talking about, the move. A lot of this didn't come out of even just the way I would see how we would move. It just really came through conversation, and we came up with this joint decision how we want to move forward, as opposed to sticking to our guns of how she thinks we should do it or how I think we should do it. So take it to prayer.
And who doesn't want to bless you? And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, because I have people say,
Amen.
I don't have time. I'm like, you don't have 5 minutes? Go to, wake up 5 minutes earlier.
Oh, that is so good. Well, guys, we'll see you on the 14th at the Global Forum. Guy, if you're not registered, register now. You can find Robert and Kay Lee at their on their website. You can go to their book website, or you can go to, and that's Tandem. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to first say Tandem. thetandembook.com to get their book. You can also go to marriedentrepreneur.co. That's where they have all their various resources. We also have a course called Tandem. And if you remember Nehemiah, you can sign up for that course from the book. That's also available there. So North Carolina is gaining a power couple, right? A local church there is gaining a power couple. And for Dr. Chan, Dr. Shan, and hopefully it'll only be a year. We'll see what happens, right? So with that, let me pray for you guys who are watching this. May the Lord bless you guys. May the Lord enable you to steward those things that are under your care, to be inspired by this message, and to really walk it out. Whatever your marriage is, with God, all things are possible. And may you one day hear those wonderful words. You've been faithful over a few things, over your marriage, over your business, over the works of his hands, over the resources under your care, over your whatever he's giving you. You've been faithful for it. Guess what? He'll not make you rule over much. God bless you. Thanks for watching and listening. See you on Saturday. Thank you, guys. Love you both.
We'll see you Saturday.